everybody, welcome to the Chess Harbor. My name is Raf and today we're going to be taking a look at another one of my games. Today's game is from the Zilveren Toren or Silver Rook tournament. It's a tournament held in Antwerp. It has the interclub format, so it has teams of 4 players, each player taking one board. And it features 7 rounds this year. This was round 1. It was played somewhere around October 2024. The game starts off with the move e4, and today I decided to play the move e5. And my opponent starts the game off with a somewhat rare variation. He plays the move d4, the center game. This is kind of a dull move usually. Play can easily go e takes on d4, and then queen takes on d4, knight c6, queen moves somewhere back, and the game is quite passive for black, for white at least, and usually there's not much energy in this one. Another option is after e takes on d4, the move c3, or some combination of the move c3 with the move knight f3, and you're gonna get a kind of Scotch gambit position where white has very easy development and is going to be having a very easy time to attack you. Both of these options are not really appealing to me, so after my opponent plays the move d4, I played an even rarer move. I played the move d6. This can transpose back into some kind of Philidor defense after one of the knight moves, and I'm much more comfortable playing that kind of position because it's a position that I actually know. What also can happen is the end game, and my opponent did accept that offer, so he takes on e5, I take back on e5, and then queen takes on d8, king takes on d8. So now we're in a very fast endgame position, and this is also something I'm fine with. It's something I know. It happens a lot in the Philidor as well, and I like these kind of positions. There's still all minor pieces and both rooks, so play is very lively still, but usually it's a little more positional, a little more slow. My opponent starts with the move bishop to c4 now, attacking my f7 pawn, so I have to defend that. I played the move f6. The move bishop e6 is also possible, so let me show you. Bishop e6, bishop takes on e6, f takes on e6. This position looks very ugly with these double pawns, but it's actually quite a lot of fun to play. The pawn on e6 is not really bad because it covers both the f5 and the d5 square, so there's no more outpost there for a knight. And these pawns, they actually do work quite well in tandem because they control a lot of important squares. The king can easily go on e7 and defend both pawns. So it's actually quite a fun position to play, and if you face this kind of structure, I'd really recommend you try bishop e6 because it's actually a very fun position to play. You got a lot of activity on these open files, and the pawn duo here on e5 and on e6 are quite good. That's not what happened though. I played the move f6. My opponent plays bishop e3, play bishop d6. Now the move knight c3, c6. The move c6 is vital because he's looking to long castle and pin my king, so my king needs some escape square. And that's exactly what he does. He long castles. Now my king can go to c7, knight g to e2, knight to e7, and then the move a3. Here I was looking for a plan because my opponent has developed all his minor pieces, his rooks are connected, so his development is completed, and I still have my 2 queenside minor pieces to be developed. I was looking for a way to do that here, and it's not that easy because I don't want to put my bishop on d7 or my knight on d7, because that's just going to block each other in. The bishop can't go to e6, it can't go to f5, it can go to g4, but this pin is really not relevant because after the move f3, the bishop's just going to have to move, and it's not going to be any useful on this diagonal because it's just going to be looking at very solid pawns. So ideally, I would want my bishop somewhere on a6 maybe, where this diagonal could be strong, and I can also oppose his bishop. So I was looking at a way to develop over here, and move b6 came to mind. So So if I play the move b6, my bishop can come to a6 immediately, maybe even temporarily put it on b7 and put the knight on a6 to c5. So that was what I was first thinking, and then with that in mind, I thought, hey, I can also play the move b5 maybe, and it would attack his bishop as well, and I can get some more space on the queen side. So I picked up my pawn, I played the move b5, and as I put down my pawn, I immediately realized, damn, this is no good, because my opponent has a nice sacrifice. My opponent thought for a couple of minutes, and he saw the sacrifice as well, so he does play it. He plays the move bishop takes on b5, and that's just a really elegant sacrifice here. Let me show you what happens after b takes on, after c takes on b5. The move knight takes on b5 check with a fork on my bishop and my king, and now the bishop is double attacked, and yeah, I just lose back the piece. So after this position, I'm just down 2 clean pawns, and black is hopelessly lost. So this game already becomes interesting. After the move bishop takes on b5, I knew I can't take on b5 without losing just the game on the spot. So I have to come up with some creative defense. So I came up with the move bishop takes on a3. Now if white would just retreat his bishop, I would just retreat my bishop to like b4, and material would still be level and there would still be a game. But my opponent, of course, he doesn't do that. He takes on a3 after my bishop sacrifice. So let's go back. Bishop takes on a3, and then pawn takes on a3. Now I have to take his bishop or I would be down a piece. Now he still has this fork with knight takes on b5, or this attack on my king. Now my bishop is no longer hanging, so I only lose 1 pawn instead of 2. So that is an improvement over the previous variation. So I play king to b7, now knight to d6. The game is quite bad for me. My king is kind of exposed. His pieces are active. I still have these pieces on the back rank, but all hope is not lost. There are still some ways that I can come back in this game. So there are a couple of things I'm looking for here. First of all, if I can get into an endgame with opposite color bishops or rooks, there is still drawing odds. Of course, opposite bishop endgame is not going to happen because, well, the chance of my opponent just snapping it off are enormous. But a rook endgame is very much on the table, and with 1 pawn up, it's still hard for him to convert, especially since his passed pawn is also in front of my king. So there's a lot of reason for me to play on here, and let's see how black can try to swindle his way back. So I go king to c6 here, and my opponent, he snaps off the bishop, which is smart, so no opposite color bishop endgame anymore. Rook takes on c8, rook to d3, now he's looking to double, also a very good idea. And I still have to develop my queen side, so knight to a6, rook h to d1, now rook to c7, because I have to stop his rook from coming in on the 7th rank. And now he plays rook to d6 check, king to b7, rook 1 to d3, so he's looking to maybe hassle my king along the 3rd rank now. So I have to play, I play the move knight c5, so I can stop this check. He's happy to trade more pieces because he's up material, so he does that. Bishop takes on c5, rook takes on c5, and now rook to d7 check. Rook to c7, rook takes, king takes. So my opponent has managed to trade off a lot of pieces already, which is usually good for him because it is leading closer to an endgame where he's just a pawn up, so it's winning. So I completely agree with him. I would do the same. But it also helps me come closer to my goal, and that's to get in a rook endgame, which can still possibly be drawn. So now he goes knight to c3, a6, because I don't want this check on b5, don't want his knight to become too active. He plays the move knight to d5 check. I'm happy to snap it off, and now e takes on d5 and king to d6. So my opponent has reached his goal of getting into an endgame with the pawn up, but I also reached my goal of getting into an endgame with rooks on the board, and I still have good drawing odds here. And the reason why is because my king is much more active than his king. My opponent starts with the move c4 because he has these two connected passers, and ideally he wants to push them forward. But here this position is actually a draw. I'm going to show you after this game why this position is a draw, and it's purely because of this king activity. Let me tell you already that in the game I did not find the correct response to this move. So in the game I played the move f5 here, and the reason why is, in my mind, I thought this was still very, very possibly a draw for me, because these pawns are in front of my king. I can stop them with my king. And to do this, I need to push my king side pawns, because I have a 4-on-3 on the king side. And if I manage to trade off these pawns, I come closer into a rook endgame. And ideally, I want to trade off every pawn on the board except one. And if I can trade off every pawn on the board except one, and it's one of these rook pawns, it's an easy draw. So that was my goal. I thought pushing my king side pawns, making them trade off for each other is good. But I'll show you later why this is not a good plan, and we'll see in the game as well. So my opponent now plays king to c2 because his king needs to support his pawns. And I play the move g5, still looking to just push my king side. Now he plays the move rook to h3, and that's why pushing my king side pawns is not a good idea here, because I create weaknesses that he can immediately exploit. So I have to defend. I play rook to a7. Now he plays this check, and I go with my king up to c5. King to c3 because his pawn is under attack, and rook to c7 because I was afraid of this check, which would actually be mate. So I have to do something about that, of course. Now the rook can take on a6, so that's what he does. Yeah, his rook became more active. My rook is very passive. He has a very active rook. So that's why pushing these kingside pawns is just not a good plan, because I created this weakness along the 6th rank, along the h file, that he could abuse while my rook sits passively. So I still try to push my pawns forward. So I play the move e4. He plays rook to f6, just attacking. Play the move f4. Plays rook to e6, and yeah, I'm gonna lose another pawn here. It's inevitable. So at least I try to create some kind of weakness. The move e3, f takes on e3, f takes on e3, and then he plays the move king d3, just very solid, keeping my king outside of anything. Looking to maybe just take back here more solidly, because the pawn is not going anywhere. Of course, he can just, this pawn needs to doesn't need to be defended. These pawns are going to win him the game, so improving his king first is a good idea. So I play king pawn to e2, and now rook takes on e2, rook to a7, rook to a2, rook a4, move g4, fixing my pawns, rook takes on c4, and now rook to c2. This move just seals the game, because of course I cannot refuse his rook trade. So I play rook takes on c2, rook takes on c2, king takes on d5. Yeah, and now after the move a4, I just resign, because of course there is no winning for me. These pawns are fixed. My king has to defend against this threat, and while my king defends against that, his king just marches in and wins the game. So this is where I resigned. Now I want to show you a way how I could have still drawn this game. So after the move c4 here in the end game, I said that this king activity is what decides the game, and that's true. So the move kings to c5 is actually the move that can draw the game, because now this pawn is attacked and his king cannot defend. So he has to play the move rook to c5, because if he allows me to take, material is level again, and my king is better, my rook is going to come active, and this pawn is still weak, so the game is going to be a draw. Now after this move, I can further reduce the effectiveness of his king and rook, but with the move a5, king to c2, and the move a4. Well, now the b5 square is covered, so he can't move his rook there, he can't move his king there. And now I can easily improve the game. So rook to d3 now, and now the plan I had in the game to push my king side can come in action. And if he ever decides to move back his rook to get onto his b file, I just put my rook there. And the game just becomes a draw now, because I can now start with the invasion. And if he ever just blocks me, yeah, I just go back and the game is a draw. I can't do anything here without this pawn promoting, but he can no longer improve his pawns, because he always has to defend against my rook coming in and maybe gobbling something up, going there. So now the game just becomes a draw, because my king is too good and my rook contains my rook contains him. So the position just becomes a stalemate here. Nobody can improve anymore, and that's how I could have gotten a draw. The king to c5 was just such an easy move, but I missed it in the game. I thought my king was perfect on d6 already. So that's a very interesting lesson to take away from this game, is that king and rook activity is key in these kind of positions. So that's one thing, keep in mind if you ever get into a pawn behind in a game. If you can get into an endgame where your king and rook are better, it's definitely not over. So you can always play for these kind of odds. So I hope you learned something from this one. My first loss, the first round of the tournament. So I am gonna have to bounce back in the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.